morning. How is everyone today? We're enjoying some real summer weather in Kansas. It has turned and it is hot, and so all of a sudden I am thinking about how to stay cool, and I'm making dresses and thinking about getting air under my clothes so that I can be more comfortable. But before we start on the program for today, I want to really thank everyone. We have been exceedingly busy the last couple of months thanks to you. You've supported us, you've watched our Facebook Lives, you've ordered from us, you've ordered patterns and fabrics, and we've been madly trying to replenish our inventory, and we have tons of new fabric in. It just came in last week and yesterday, and Thursday our photographer who lives in Lawrence, Kansas, Lisa, is coming to photograph many fabrics. We're also doing a photo shoot tomorrow, or actually Thursday. We have a section of town called Noto, and it's our arts district, and people have done some amazing murals. So we're going to be doing a photo shoot in Noto to show a new pattern for our So Confident program, and just to take pictures of the beautiful murals that we can put in our So Confident magazine. But at any rate, we're putting all these fabrics online soon after we get them photographed on Thursday. So we want to thank you for all your continued support on a lot of levels. I've gotten emails from people, phone calls from people, notes from people, and we just really want you to know that we appreciate all that you do for us, and that we've managed to stay here in these times and been successful, and we feel very grateful. So thank you so much. So we are going to talk about dresses today, and dresses are inspired to me by three people actually, whose names I will mention sort of throughout the Facebook Live. But I'm going to do quite a bit of inspirational talking, I hope, today about dresses. I want to show you some patterns that start out as tops, or maybe a dress, and I'm going to show you variations, and I'm going to tell you who made them, and I'm going to talk about fabric, and I'm going to show you some appropriate fabrics to make. We're going to talk a little bit about lengthening, shortening, editing, changing some things, and I think you're going to be blown away by some of the examples that you're going to see. And then when I finish that, I'm going to bring in the easel, and we're going to talk about two alterations that you might do on tops and dresses, and I hope to correct my complete blunder from last week and get the one technique correct this week. So we'll end with some fitting, and we'll end with some questions. So get your questions ready, and we're going to answer those at the end of the session. All right, so I'm starting with the two garments that are behind me. We've had a garment or pattern by the name of San Diego top, tunic, and jacket for a long time. Actually, the pattern started out as the San Diego jacket from way long ago, and it was one of our best-selling patterns of all time. So a couple of years ago, we took that jacket pattern and made it into a top and a tunic. And now all three of those are in the pattern. So when you order the San Diego pattern, you get a top and a tunic and a jacket. But here is the top. And what's signature about this garment is this collar detail and a dropped shoulder that comes forward. So this shoulder seam is right here rather than normally at the shoulder. So that helps you in a couple of ways. If you have problems with fitting shoulders, it's certainly a lot easier to deal with a shoulder seam that's not at the shoulder. But you can see in this light handkerchief weight linen, a little bit of a stripe, which you may not be able to pick up on this camera. This is a little bit crisp, and so this collar splays out and stays open. You can probably kick it up around your neck a little bit and maybe put a pin there if you like, but this is the way it sometimes falls. And then you can see that it has a shorter sleeve, but fairly full. Still about elbow length. So that is the San Diego top that comes in the pattern. Well, our friend Samantha in South Carolina made this variation also in a linen. This linen has been washed, this linen not. And so this is very soft. Even though these started out as similar weights of fabric, when you wash certain linens, they can become very soft and beautiful and wrinkle in a different way, whereas the regular unwashed linen might have more of a crease type wrinkle. The washed linens have more of a rumpled type linen, which frankly I sort of prefer. But you can see that the same collar detail hangs differently. This just is what it wants to do on you and the hanger. So you never quite know what's going to happen with the collar until you get it done. But this shows two different ways. She's shortened the sleeve a little bit and lengthened it. Still has the nice pleat, continuous pleat, so it's not open. There's a seam in here. And then she's angled the bottom a little bit. But it's just a great, I'm going to call this a house dress. And we think of that term as something sort of frumpy. But when Bergdorf Goodman sent out an email to me about a week ago and talked about house dresses, I thought, oh, the house dress has raised its level of quality here a little bit, and we're going to call this a house dress. So I'm going to show you a fabric that I think would make a really great San Diego dress or top or jacket or whatever. This is kind of heavy. We get a lot of requests for graphic prints. This is all cotton. This has a little bit of a gutsy weight to it, but it's still drapey and nice, but has a crisp feeling. It's all cotton. It's going to be very comfortable for the heat of the summer. All right, so that's the San Diego. Then we have the Hugo top, which you've seen. And by the way, we have this fabric back in stock. It's been so popular. This is a pin-tucked cotton fabric. And so it's sort of a random, wavy little pin tuck, but I love this fabric. Very comfortable, and you don't have to worry about the care of this. You practically don't have to press it at all. All right, so if you just take this pattern and extend it longer, it's as simple as that. Then you get a Hugo dress. This has a similar relationship to the San Diego, but this is a little bit narrower, and this particular detail is buttoned with a nice little feature button at the neck. But there are 3 hidden buttons inside that placket, and it takes you longer to make the placket than it does to make the whole dress. But it's very simple and very easy to make. This is cotton, and this is a polyester crepe. So this does not wrinkle at all. But it came like this. This is not pieced. It was, we don't have this fabric anymore, but you can see that you can use these striped and border prints in an interesting way by just thinking about where things kind of hit you in terms of the stripes. But you get a lot of drape with a polyester or a rayon crepe, and you don't get so much drape with the cotton. Now, you ready for the blow your mind version? This is made by Samantha. This is the Hugo. Now we don't have the sleeve, the banding on the sleeve. It's left open. She extended this and then created these little casings at the shoulders and purposely left these wonderful long ties. Untied, it's not a bow, it's just hanging. She's very influenced by really high-end, very expensive, ready-to-wear. And I don't know the origin of this, but knowing what I know about Samantha, she found a picture online of some great designer, maybe Alexander McQueen or somebody like that, and she saw this detail and has adapted it to her garment. She's added a V-neck and a facing, a little binding facing, and added a casing to draw it in. Samantha has a nice curvy body, and so she likes to accentuate her waist, you know, the thing I don't have anymore, no waist, but Samantha has a waist, and so she likes to accentuate that, a casing here, and again with the long drawstrings purposely. I think this is fantastic. So this is in a cotton print. So let me show you a couple of fabrics for this. Now this happens to be silk. Now don't be afraid of silk. Silk is cool. It's a natural fiber. A lot of people think that silk is hot. I actually think it's quite comfortable. And silk is washable. Beautifully washable, really. All I do is take a 4-inch square of fabric, throw it in the washing machine to make sure that something doesn't happen to it. Sometimes you'll get a color, a real saturated color like dark blue or red or something like that that will bleed. I just make sure that doesn't happen before I commit to how I'm going to care for the fabric. But I love this geometric, beautiful drape for this. And one more gorgeous silk. We have a lot of new silks that just came in that look hand painted. So this is a silk crepe. And when you have silk crepe, there's that little bit of grip to the fabric. And whenever it's creped, when the yarn is bent, then it's going to be a lot easier to sew than a slicker silk. But look at this. It does have a repeat, so this was printed, but it does have a very hand-painted look to it and a gorgeous drape. So those are two fabrics that I recommend for the Hugo. All right, now let's talk about the Burwick or Barrack Street tunic. If you made it straight out of the pattern, this is what it would look like. It has a hidden placket in the front with some hidden buttons, a little band for a collar, neck band, a peplum sort of affair with pleats in the front, and a long sleeve with the same banding as you have at the neck. But Samantha, again, took that and kept many of the elements that I just talked about. The hidden placket, although I love what she did here, there are buttons, just like on the other one, but in between the buttons are some little tacks that keep that placket in place and add a nice little hand detail to it. But look at this sleeve. She shortened the sleeve and added this fabulous cuff and button for a detail. Samantha was actually here when she made this dress at one of our So Kansas events, and I watched how this progressed. She may disagree with me, but from what I observed, Samantha sort of did this as she went. She knew generally what she wanted to do, but this cuff detail was an afterthought. So it's not as if this is turned up. This cuff is actually sewn on at the bottom. And I think when she got the dress done, she felt like she needed some more detail at the sleeve, and so she added that. But I think this really, really makes it. And then she's eliminated the tucks. This now buttons all the way down, which is a detail that we do a lot of times on the Burwick anyway. And then again, added this beautiful belt in this very nice, I call it my Poochie print, Poochie cotton print. But Burwick tunic, Burwick dress. You've seen this fabric, but I want to show it again because we just got a new shipment in. This is the new shipment. It went out of here so fast, like in a day, that I thought, I want this again because I love it. It's a really different kind of print to get. I've not seen it very often, this sort of watery color and the print, and the colors are amazing, very Mediterranean blue and so forth. So we have it back in again, so look for that if you like it. But then I have this other fantastic new graphic print. These wavy geometric designs with the stars and the dots, fabulous colors. This would be fun to use both horizontally and vertically. It's 100% cotton, so you could mix it a little bit in both directions. When you do that, of course, you don't have to match the stripes so much. There'd be a little bit of matching, I think, generally with this. Not a precise match, perhaps, but an idea that if you made it all horizontal, you would want to carry a darker area around. But this is a nice graphic cotton. And this is another silk crepe that I think would make a wonderful Barrack Street tunic. This is from Lafayette 148, New York. This is one of their fabrics from this season. So, are you hearing the sirens? We are across the street from the ambulance service in Topeka, Kansas, so I'll always know I have a ride to the hospital if I need it. Anyway, wonderful drapey fabric if you like something with a little more drape, and This is a very, very trendy look right now. You can see this in a lot of great high-end designers. So, silk crepe. All right, that's the Barrack. Now we have some patterns that are already dresses. This is actually what we call a duster. And so Kathy Miller from Minneapolis area, Hudson, Wisconsin, actually made this. And the only reason I'm bringing this next one out is only to show you how the pieces and parts of this are so interesting, which is hard to pick up in this linen. This is again one of the wash linens, but you can see how this entire section is a curved insert with pockets. The collar can be contrasting. The back has some very interesting shapes to it. There's a seam here, a seam across here, and of course a band across the bottom. Now this is a knit, so the Fillmore Duster can be made in either, did I say Memphis before, I wonder? This is the Fillmore, I just want to clarify that. I'm not sure what I called it when I first brought it out, but this is the Fillmore Duster. So anyway, it can be made in a knit or a woven. Now, Kathy is a little bit shorter, so she petites her patterns, and the classic petite is to fold out 1/4 inch, which would be a total of a 1/2 inch, between the shoulder and the bust, and just pinch that out across the front and the back. And that helps lift a garment and looks a lot better on a petite person than a pattern that doesn't have that adjustment to it. If a pattern has a sleeve, then of course you need to make that pleat across the sleeve as well, so the cap of the sleeve will fit the arm's eye of the garment. I had that question on email just the other day. So this is Fillmore. All right, see if I can get both of these going here. I think this would be an interesting combination of linen. This is 100% linen in a cross weave, sort of this raspberry garnet color. But then you could use the insets in the coordinating stripe. So solid and stripe, and play around with that on your Fillmore. I'm liking this a lot. And Erin's nodding yes over there. She ordered this fabric, so I know she wants it. Okay, we have another dress pattern that's sort of ready to go. We have a dress called the Memphis Dress. I'll hold it up a little bit higher here so you can see the actual bottom of it. Can't quite get all of it in the camera. But this is also cut up into some interesting shapes. Normally the pattern is long sleeve. I just simply made this out of a cotton knit, one of our Alabama Channon cotton knits actually, but any cotton knit or any knit would work. Not just cotton, but it could be viscose or polyester or whatever. The one thing I have found about this dress, if you make this dress in too slinky of a knit, it is too drapey. This is a knit that needs to have a little bit of structure to it so that it holds its shape, and then the dress is much more interesting and really hangs on your body like we intended for it to hang. So you can see that there are pieces and parts to this dress. This color is different than this color. There's a seam here, a diagonal seam, so forth. Well, my daughter Alex made this one in a combination of a woven fabric and a knit fabric. So she used the knit where it was important that the fit stay the same for the knit dress, through the bust, shoulders, so forth. So the black, the solid black is knit. And then this was a border print, actually a black cotton with embroidered white flowers on it. So she used the woven for the sleeve and the one inset. And I think this is brilliant. I love this combination. I love the idea that you can use a woven. I don't know that if you make the dress out of all woven, you're going to have to really be careful and understand that there needs to be some ease through the bust, I'm not saying you can't do it, and then you have to make sure that you can get it over your neck. Either widen the neckline opening or have a keyhole opening in the back or the front or wherever. Or the shoulder, could be any place. All right, so I'm loving this combination. Say you made the blue dress and the blue viscose. I say this is viscose. I really should look here. Yes. So this is rayon of bamboo. So this has a nice drape to it, but it has enough heft to it to work for this dress. It's not super, super slinky. So this gorgeous blue. And then insert some cotton. Whoa, there goes. There goes the rack. All right. All right. All is well. So if you were to use this woven, which is a sort of tissue weight cotton, all cotton. Again, I better look. Yes, all cotton. It's called the sketchy floral cotton. If you'd use this for the sleeves and the bottom insert, that's a great combination. Really fun. Now, this fabric, of course, could be for the Hugo dress, the San Diego dress, the Burwick dress. It doesn't just have to be fabric to be inserted. It's just a great pattern altogether. All right, we're back in business here. Another dress pattern that's already set up to make for knits is the Cityscapes dress. The Cityscapes is a pretty long dress, actually, a few inches above the ankle. But you can see that it bells out, is shaped through the bust and the shoulders, and the pattern has long sleeves. What's interesting about this garment is that there are darts that start at the hem, and those darts come clear up and continue to right below the bust. So they're bust darts that start at the hem. And those darts are like 48 inches long or something like that, both front and back. So Samantha leaves off the sleeves, makes a V-neck, opens that up, that feels better for summer, and then those darts, she has sewn the darts in to right here and then left the darts open. So it creates a little bit of a flounce, a little bit of a fuller, swingy bottom to the dress, and then simply cut it off and shortened it. I think this is fantastic. So I can really see people wearing this. This is a great house dress, in my opinion. All right. So, not yet. All right, so that's Cityscapes. Now, what I have on. So I was inspired to make this dress by Rhonda in Houston, who had ordered this pink print fabric, cotton knit, and didn't have enough to make the bottom band of this dress. I know you can't see the bottom band on me, but there is one. So I sent her a contrasting fabric, and she sent me a picture of the finished dress. She loves it. I love it. It was really great. So it made me realize that, you know, it's been a long time since I've really made a knit dress and worn it. This is, what I have on is the E dress. And when we have patterns that have a letter E in front of it, that means it's a download pattern. So you can see now, hopefully, that there's a bottom band on the bottom of this that is pegged just a little bit. So that can be obviously in the same fabric, or it's nice to do it in a contrast. Now I want to tell you about the origin of this pattern. We have a pattern called Anne's Cardigan. The Anne's Cardigan pattern obviously has a sleeve, the jacket, and it comes also with a tank pattern called Anne's Tank. Both of these are in the same pattern. If you were to order the Anne's cardigan and tank. All right. So we took this tank pattern and reshaped below the bust to create the E dress. So these are the same pattern and fit at the top to about the waist. And then obviously the dress is lengthened. We also give you a line on the pattern to make this and cut it as a skirt. So now you can see the bottom band. So if you have the Anne's cardigan jacket and tank pattern, you could do that to your Anne's tank pattern. You could lengthen it and make it into a dress. Or here's the download that's already done it for you, and then you have the line for where to cut it as a skirt. But here's the cool thing. So I have to have a sleeve. I just can't go sleeveless anymore. My sleeveless days are over. So what do you do about a sleeve? Well, the sleeve from the Anne's cardigan fits in the E dress. And the only thing I had to do was just widen this shoulder line a little bit, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, so that I had a seam allowance basically to sew a sleeve to. Because normally this is just a bound edge, so there's no seam allowance here. So I basically added a seam allowance to this arm's eye so that I could insert the sleeve from the Anne's cardigan into this dress, and all I did was shorten the dress. So that's what I have on today. Now, one little piece that I think is a nice addition is we have a pattern called an E Shrug. It was our very first download pattern, actually, ever. There's a story about that, but I won't bore you with it. But we very hastily put out a download pattern when there was a issue in shipping of a pattern that was supposed to go to a big trade show, and it just didn't happen. So we took that pattern and put it into a download form and realized, oh, there's a big audience out there for download patterns. There are a lot of people who really like them, and our download business has increased and increased and increased all the time, to the point now where every pattern that we produce in print form we also do as a download for those of you who live around the world and don't want to pay for the shipping. And there are just people who want that pattern right now. They want it tonight. They want to make that garment tonight or tomorrow morning, and you can do that with the downloads. So this is the E Shrug, and it looks really great over the E dress. This can have a short sleeve or a longer sleeve. This can be lengthened. We give you instructions for that in the pattern to make this a really long dress, or excuse me, a shrug. Does not have side seams, so the body of this E Shrug is all one pattern piece. You have shoulder seams and a sleeve. I used to teach making this at the original Sewing and Quilt Expos, and we would do it in a 3-hour class, and people were done in an hour and a half and they went shopping. So it's super, super easy to make. It doesn't take very much fabric as well. So E Shrug, E dress. So we had just enough of this fabric left to make just the body of this dress. And so I needed to find something to make the bottom band, which I know you can't see, and the sleeves. So my sleeves are a solid color. But I want to show you what Erin did. She used the same fabric and put it with a black and white stripe, which I love, both for the neckband and the sleeves. And part of me kind of wishes I'd done that, but you know, I kind of like my green. So I think this can go into a couple of seasons. Doesn't just have to be a summer dress with the coloration that I've used. So because this fabric also sold out so quickly, I have another 30 yards coming in. Hopefully Thursday or Friday it'll be here. And then I also ordered it in a green colorway, which is just a bright, brilliant green. So here are the SKU numbers for the two fabrics that are coming in. The blue one is the one I have on, and the green one is the one that's coming as well that we have not had before, but we'll have now. So if you're interested in this fabric, those are the SKU numbers. So those are the dress variations. All of the patterns that I've referred to, the San Diego, the Hugo, the Burwick, the Fillmore, the Memphis, the Cityscapes, the E-Dress are all on sale. If they're a printed pattern, they're now $18. If they're a download pattern, they're now $12. Do we have a code this time, or is that just the way it is on? It's set up that way.
We'll send an email.
Yeah. We'll send an email if something changes about that. But I think the prices are already set that way in our website, so you should be good to go. And then every fabric that I referred to, including the one I have on that's coming in, and the ones that I pulled off the table, and the one that I referenced here for the Hugo, all of those fabrics are on sale for 15% off. And those will be designated that way on the website as well. So, dresses. All right. So let's see if I can get myself pulled together this week about the alteration that I meant to do last week for sloping shoulders. But we're going to start with narrow shoulders first. There is an order to altering shoulder seam or shoulder widths and areas. And in our fitting shoulders tutorial, which I think is one of the best tutorials I've ever written actually, I list those in the order that you would do them. And if you have to narrow or widen your shoulders, that's the very first thing that you do. So, the first thing you do is trace the original arm's eye of the size that you're going to make. So if you're going to make a medium, you would trace from the pattern the original shape of the arm's eye in the front and the back, because they are different generally. So then you determine how much narrower you want the shoulder. And really the only way to do that, particularly for garments that have open necklines like this, is to put the tissue paper pattern on you. Stand in front of a mirror, center the pattern in the center of you, and see how far it hangs off of your shoulder. Then you'll know whether you need to narrow it 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch is about the most you can do. So you place the traced arm's eye however many inches in from the original point. So let's say 1/2 an inch. We have a new point 1/2 an inch in on this shoulder line. So now you can slip this under. We're going to pretend like I'm tracing this. And I'm going to pivot this in such a way that the top of the traced arm's eye is on that new point, and it's going to pivot that. So you can see that it's over on the shoulder line and up a little bit on the side seam, and that's okay. Don't think of this as raising the side seam, just think of it as a new tilt of this total seam. So your sleeve will still fit, it's still the same distance, and you don't have to do a thing to a sleeve, because you don't want to do sleeves if you don't have to. That's a whole other, that's a class, that's a course in design school. So this little bit of red here indicates how much fabric you won't have in your garment. And a lot of people who have narrow shoulders also don't need as much fabric through the high bust or chest area. So that removes this much fabric from there as well. So you would trace the front and do the same thing to the back. You would trace the original line on the back, move it over at the top of the shoulder 1/2 an inch, pivot that, and you have your narrow shoulders. Now, in the case of the E-dress that you need to widen, instead of a point here, the point comes out further, comes wider, and you simply use the same trace line and move it out. And so this is going to actually fall below on the side seam. So it will not end up at the same point as the original side seam. Okay, so that's narrowing the shoulder. So let's hope there's a sloping shoulder this week. All right, and then again, to determine if you need to change the slope of your shoulder on the garment, it's good to pin fit the tissue, and you should be able to put your finger under the tissue. And if there's room under there where that sits on you, then that means you need to alter that. Or if you've already made a garment and you know that if you pinch the shoulder, it raises it up, and it helps get rid of some of the wrinkles that are right here. That's an indicator of needing a sloped shoulder. So let's again just use 1/2 inch. You stay with the same point at the neck, and you're going to draw a new line down. Same thing on the back. Original point, 1/2 inch lower. You will have traced the original arm's eye, and now you're going to put the new shape at the new point at the shoulder and reshape that so that gets set lower, and where that meets the side seam is where that gets traced. Both the front and the back, they're different. I think we're good on sloping shoulders this week. All right, do we have any questions?
Is the lower band included as a part of the E-dress pattern?
Is the lower band included as part of the E-dress pattern? The answer is yes. By the way, I shortened my dress about 1.5 inches from the original pattern. I felt like for summer it could be a little bit shorter. You can shorten the dress. There is a lengthen and shorten line on the E-dress. You could do a little bit of a combination. If you shorten the dress a lot, you could shorten the band a little bit as well, because there's a proportion that happens with the bottom band. I didn't shorten the band, but you could take 1 inch or so off of the top of it. I would leave the bottom circumference of the band. And also I want to say about the E-dress while I'm talking about it, because this bottom band is pegged, then you want to make sure you can walk in this. And so I use my cover stitch machine to hem this. You might want to use a twin needle or a zigzag stitch. If you use a straight stitch, it might be a little restrictive, maybe. Kind of depends on what size you're making.
Okay, how would you do a full bust adjustment on the E-shrug?
How would you do a full bust adjustment on the E-shrug? You would determine there's a dot under the sleeve where a side seam would be, and so you could split it and do your normal bust adjustment procedure, and then put that, actually I probably would add a side seam to the E-shrug, and then you can do a bust adjustment with or without a dart. And there are 2 ways to do a bust adjustment, full bust adjustment in a knit. One is a pretty dramatic one that adds quite a bit, and there's one that's just a minor addition, and both of those are in our Fitting the Bust tutorial.
Okay. What features should I look for when buying an iron?
What features should I look for when buying an iron? I get that question a lot, actually. Well, I'm a Rowenta user and have been forever, and I know there are pros and cons of all of them. But the reason I like Rowentas is I like the way they're weighted, I like the point, I like the way that it is sculpted in as a point, so I can get really into fine areas. A lot of irons are more rounded that come into the point, and I don't care for that. But an iron is just sort of one of those things where you have to replace them more often than you want. I also do not care for the automatic auto shut-off feature. So there's only one Rowenta iron that has that feature. I would have to look up to see which one it is. It's the $125 one, whichever that is. And we replace our irons around here. We probably should replace them more often than we do, but every year or so, and at home there's nothing to do but just pitch them. No, I don't send them off to be repaired. We just pitch them. It's the cost of sewing. It's part of that whole, okay, this is what it takes.
Okay, referring to one of Samantha's dresses, how did she lengthen it?
Which Samantha dress does it say?
What does it say?
The question is, how did Samantha lengthen the dress? I wonder which one.
Did you talk about the lengthening and shortening?
Yeah, there are lengthen and shorten lines on all of our patterns. So for instance, for the San Diego, I'm sure she just lengthened it on the lengthen and shorten line. The tunic actually has a V sort of dip to it. She kind of whacked that off and just made a nice diagonal cut to it. But I'm sure that lengthen and shorten lines for dresses are normally below the waistline. But if something is, for instance, like this, the Hugo, there would not be a lengthen and shorten line because it's a top, and you could just go straight down. Now you need to measure the bottom circumference of that pattern, any pattern, and make sure that's the circumference that you want at the new length. And so you have to make that decision whether you're going to connect from here to the bottom or if you're going to keep going from here and flare it out. Those are design decisions you have to make. But in the case of the Hugo, that is straight down. And in the case of the San Diego, that's straight down. And I think the Burwick would be straight down. So my guess is that all the dresses that Samantha made were lengthened from the bottom, or straight down by, if she wanted to retain the bottom shape, she used the lengthen and shorten line and lengthened the dress from there.
What's the difficulty level of the San Diego?
The difficulty level of the San Diego, there's one little detail that raises the difficulty of this, and that is this corner right here. Other than that, this is a super easy garment to make. We have, I believe, a blog about this, of how to sew this corner. It requires stay stitching exactly on the seam lines and marking the dot that seems like it's in an odd place, but you have to trust this is in the correct place. It requires clipping to that point so that that will open up and be able to fit the neckline. If you don't stay stitch and clip correctly, that makes that hard. If you do it correctly, it's a breeze. But go to our blog, search San Diego, and that will come up. And it's a whole tutorial with photographs of each step of how to do that neckline. Otherwise, it's a very simple garment.
Okay. Can we see the back of the Memphis dress?
The back of the Memphis dress. Okay.
And then the cityscapes. How far down does the dart go? Maybe explain a little bit about where Samantha stopped.
The question is, how far down on the cityscapes do the darts go? The darts are a continuous dart from below the bust to the hemline. On the pattern, we actually have a dot, and I can't tell you exactly where that is in terms of dimensions, but right here, which is 5 or 6 inches below the waist, this dart opens up, and on the pattern, the bottom part of this dart is actually cut out, and just the seam allowances of the bottom part are left. But Samantha just didn't cut it like that. She left that filled in and used the bottom of the closed portion of the dart as the point at which she stopped sewing the dart. Ooh, there's a lot of darts and dots there. Okay, I hope that helped. Made sense.
Okay. Does the Ann's cardigan sleeve also fit into the tank? We talked about fitting into the E-dress, but does it fit into the tank?
Does the Ann's cardigan sleeve fit into the tank? And the answer is yes. The tank and the dress are exactly the same profile at the top. So the sleeve fits into the E-dress, sleeve fits into the tank. We've done that many times.
Okay. What fabric is the E-Shrug?
The fabric of the E-Shrug is a black viscose jersey. So it has a little curl to it. So the edges, which are cut with a rotary cutter, do kind of roll, which makes it nice. So it's all unfinished edges.
We had a question about the linen gauze, the linen gauze knit. Are we still getting that?
We had a question about the linen gauze knit. We have about 8 colors of linen gauze knit coming in that I expect maybe to be here next week, perhaps. I'll try to show those on the next Facebook Live if they come in or whenever they come in. I'm excited about those. That's what was used on the bottom of this skirt, the linen gauze.
For the shoulder adjustments, which one would you do first?
For shoulder adjustments, the narrow shoulder adjustment is always first. Narrow or widen is always first. and then sloped is second, forward thrust is third, balancing is fourth, but narrow first, sloping next.
Okay. When using these lightweight fabrics, do you recommend lining the bodice?
When using the lightweight fabrics, do you recommend lining the bodice? I'm going to try not to line anything that I'm using for summer. I think that depends on the style, how fitted it is, me, my body, what undergarments I own. But I do own some very sheer, sort of voile weight camis that I like to wear. I have one in white, I have one in sort of a nude color that I tend to wear. So it's also a little bit loose. But I think that's a style question. We don't line much around here, even in a sheer fabric.
Okay, what is a good length for the Fillmore if you are short?
What is a good length for the Fillmore? Kathy Miller is, I don't know, maybe 5'1" or 2", I'm thinking, and she shortened this um, 2 to 3 inches shorter, and I think that worked just fine for her. This is not the easiest thing to shorten because of these curves, but it can be lengthened and shortened in a couple of places. It can be shortened through the hip area. You can take a little bit off of the bottom band. You can take a little bit off right below the bust. So I would shorten this in about 3 places rather than 1. So just a little bit in each place, maybe 1 inch on the bottom, 1/2 inch or so, 3/4 of an inch through the hips, and maybe another 1/2 inch or 3/4 below the bust.
Okay. What height person are patterns drafted for, and how tall are you?
Okay. What height person are our patterns drafted for? I'm 5'6". I used to be. I think I still am, sort of, kind of, almost. And I don't have to do much to the lengths of our patterns. I would say our patterns are more for about a 5'7" person, because I do have to shorten my pants occasionally, but I don't shorten tops and dresses and things like that normally.
Suggest what to wear with the E-dress skirt.
Suggest what to wear with the E-dress skirt. I would wear the E-tee. I would wear the sienna top. I would wear the Eureka top with maybe a second layer under it that was close fitting like a tank under it. I might wear would you wear a Cortona with it? Maybe. Okay, an Ann's tank. So you could separate the dress.
Cottage.
Oh, the cottage shirt would be a great one. Cottage shirt. But I think you could wear a Hugo with it, maybe. If it's, you might want to shorten it.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that you don't want to cover up a lot of this skirt. That it has to be somewhat of a shorter garment and not terribly voluminous. Something a little more shaped and fitted. For a simple summer look, I would make an ET and wear with this.
Okay, a couple questions about summer fabrics for these dresses, like the cityscapes. Like what kind of fabric is it?
For the cityscapes dress, what kind of fabrics for summer for like the cityscapes? I think you're looking at the cotton knits and the viscose knits. The viscose knits tend to be more tissue weight than the cotton knits, but the cotton knits are cotton and they're pretty comfortable too. So I think we have some polyester knits, but for the heat of the summer, maybe you avoid the polyester and go with the viscose. The linen knits are going to be great when we get them in. They're somewhat semi-sheer. They're fabulous. We don't have any silk knits at the moment. So I think cotton or viscose, which is rayon.
And how do I get rid of algae growing in my Rowenta?
How do you get rid of algae growing in your Rowenta? I would buy a new one. I have no idea. That might be a question for Rowenta. I don't know. You know, I should use distilled water in my irons, but I don't. I use Topeka water out of the faucets. That may not be the thing to do, but we don't have that trouble. So it must be something in the water where you are. I don't know.
I think also cleaning it out, like if you let it sit and don't clean it out and it just sits in there, that's part of it.
Erin's suggestion is don't let the water sit in there. You clean it out when you're not using it, pour it out. That's a good idea. I never do that, but I think that's a good idea. And it's probably why my irons don't last as long as they should, is I don't really take care of them. I don't clean them out. I don't empty them. I forget to turn them off. You know, whatever. All the wrong things.
Okay.
That's like the question. I want to talk about this for just a second. I got a question for the question and answer series whenever we do it about how I store my fabric and my patterns, and I don't. So I'm going to address that at some point. But if you all have a great idea about how to store your fabrics and store your patterns, I'm up for it, because right now mine are in heaps of things and in boxes, and it's a mess. So.
Okay. Sorry. What can I iron onto tissue paper so it's easier to handle for adjustments? I don't know if she's asking if she wants it to be heavier,
okay.
So does it rip? Or?
Okay. The question is, what do I iron on to my pattern for adjustments? So I recommend, if you want to stabilize your tissue patterns, which I've done many times, once I get a pattern adjusted, then I tend to preserve it by fusing it to a very, very, very cheap, lightweight Pellon type interfacing. And that'll preserve your pattern so you can make them over and over and over, and you're not destroying the tissue pattern. But you could do that first. Iron your whole pattern on to the inexpensive Pellon, the kind that you buy in a package, not the kind you buy in a roll. Then you could make your adjustments and probably see them better. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Does a sloping shoulder mean that your shoulder slopes downward or forward?
A sloping shoulder means that your shoulders go down. Coming forward is called forward thrust, and that's a different adjustment. If you have both, which a lot of people do, you would do the sloping shoulder first and then forward shoulder adjustment next.
Okay, let's take this as the last one. Are you introducing any new patterns soon?
Are we introducing any new patterns soon? Yes, we're madly at work on a new pattern. I actually showed it in last week's video. It's a top. You want to go get it for me real quick? We'll just show it to you. It's really cool. It's kind of a shifted right front and left front. It has an interesting tuck on the sleeve and a cuff. We're going to make it a shorter sleeve and a long sleeve. But it is a knit garment. We were just discussing it today, whether we're going to make it a print and a download, and we made the decision today to make it both. But here it is. Oh, I have another two fabrics I want to show you seeing this. Yeah, I forgot. So anyway, obviously two stripes. They don't have to match because they're two different stripes. But this is the pattern that we're working on. This was the one last week we were asking for names for. We've had some suggestions. And if you have a great name and we end up choosing it, you'll get a free pattern. But I want to show you one more fabric combination. I totally forgot seeing this pink. So think E-dress or Memphis Dress. So this fabulous E-cot pattern. This is rayon viscose jersey. So this would be very comfortable for summer. It's lightweight and drapey. And then put the pink stripe as the band, either the neck band or the bottom band and or sleeves, neck, arm bindings, whatever. I think this is a great combination. But I forgot to tell you that. So these are on sale as well, these two fabrics. All right, any other questions you think?
No?
I think that's it for the day, all the questions. You're always welcome to email Betsy at sewingworkshop.com with your questions, or me, Linda at sewingworkshop.com. We so appreciate all the questions. I learn more from your questions than you probably learn from me in response, because I have the benefit of seeing all the questions that come in, and I know where people are getting stuck and so forth. We have so many new customers thanks to Facebook Live and all kinds of reasons. Betsy, who does our marketing, has done a wonderful job in really expanding our business. We have so many new customers. So I know there are a lot of you who are not familiar with everything that we do around here. I want to mention one more thing. We do have a dress workshop in September that Samantha from South Carolina will be teaching. I'll be assisting her. At this point, I think it's reasonably full, but if you're interested in the dress workshop, call us or email us and we'll put you on a wait list. Or we might even have a second one if we have enough people who are interested. So the idea of the class is we're taking top patterns and turning them into dresses using both knits and woven fabrics. So stay tuned for that. That's posted on our website, as are all of our events. We have 3 Sew Kansas events in the fall that currently are full, but with today's how we're operating, we might get some cancellations, but for sure we'll put you on wait lists for this year or when we are planning our events for next year. So stay tuned. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.